One of the main responsibilities of an L&D professional is to stay abreast with what's happening around in business, be futuristic, and consult business to prepare the workforce for tomorrow. Ideally, it should be a company's DNA. So, being prepared ahead of time is the key to success today. And it needs to be endorsed by the top management. So, can I be called as a role model of learning in my organization? That's point one.
Welcome to the Stars of Learning podcast, where your host Jyoti Ji explores the minds of the thought leaders who have vast experience and in depth knowledge in the learning industry. Now, over to your host Jyoti Ji.
Hello, everyone. Hearty welcome to season 3 of Stars of Learning podcast. And my name is Jyoti G. So, friends, I'm glad that you are joining me today, and we have lined up an interesting episode for you to reimagine the learning and development as a future business drivers. Wondering, what am I saying? What would I be covering? Yes, friends, the global workforce has been continually evolving due to a number of factors. And by now, you know that over 4.3 million employees, almost 3.2% of the workforce, now work from home, at least half the time, according to Global Workforce Analytics. And we all know that talent is an asset to the organization. And many organizations have shifted their focus by putting their people first. And friends, believe me, talent transformation is become the buzzword. And as L&D professional, I was reading one of the research report, and one of them said 8 of the 10 L&D leaders say their main priority over the next 18 months is to focus on building skills and capabilities required for the future. And for me, the purpose of being in this L&D field is to develop the talent and build the capability for the organization to drive that business result and get that success to the organization with a happy client, right? Of late, I'm also seeing or feeling that pressure across different stakeholders coming to learning and development function, and they say that you are critical now than ever, as they are reimagining, reforming, recalibrating everything, as market is also capitalization is based on intangible assets, right? We are looking at skilled employees, exceptional leaders, and definitely knowledge will be the base for everything. Yes, all of these trends have elevated the importance of the learning function, and we as a L&D leaders must embrace this as a broader role within the organization, and we need to be or wear a strategic hat, bringing that vision into an action. As a strategic role, we need to be effective in a way that we support for the business priorities, right? So the Peter Drucker says the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic. Guys, that's a big threat, right? So as a strategic role of a L&D, we need to bring together leadership development, getting up to technology, being agile, and so on, and many other things which comes into our kitty as we look at emerging market and the future is now. So, friends, I came across Kaushik Das, who's one of the speaker on one of the topic I came across is on the reshaping L&D talent and HR functions. And I have been following him for on the LinkedIn and see his interesting perspective. He brings in diverse set of experience. His lens on L&D is amazing and futuristic, friends. And with no further delay, let me introduce you to my guest, Kaushik Das, who is a learning and development professional with 13 years of experience, and he is passionate about learning and using technology to help people learn faster and grow better. So currently, he's working as a global learning partner at Siemens India, and his expertise lies in helping organizations transform people capabilities and building a culture of trust and performance. So let us welcome Kaushik Das onto this podcast. Hey Kaushik, once again a warm welcome to Stars of Learning podcast.
Hello, Jyoti. So great to connect with you, and I would like to congratulate you for this initiative of yours. And thanks for having me.
Definitely, we are looking at great insights, Kaushik. So, to begin, Kaushik, since you are in the L&D space, the significance of learning and development has skyrocketed in the last decade, right? And companies are realizing its contribution, not only in people factor, but in various process of organization. And and I feel this is definitely positive, encouraging for the L&D leaders to get creative. And I'm keen to get your views as you are being in this industry as L&D professionals. Do you think are we ready?
So, thanks for asking this question, Jyoti. I think that's a very good curtain raiser. So, as L&D professionals, our job is to be anticipators to drive business growth. And one of the main responsibilities of an L&D professional is to stay abreast with what's happening around in business, be futuristic, and consult business to prepare the workforce for tomorrow. So being prepared ahead of time is the key to success today. We know that we live in a VUCA world and how important it is to be proactive. Therefore,
True.
L&D professionals must work with business closely, know what the competitors are doing, understand what are the industry best practices, keeping in mind the culture and capability development aspect to build the workforce of today and tomorrow. And it depends on the organizations and their priorities on the people development front. To me, preparedness is a proactive measure, right? And one of the important aspects of people development, and it needs to be endorsed by the top management to a great extent. If the top management sees merit in it, it will definitely
Right.
prioritize. Our
Hmm.
job in HR and L&D is to show that the value of preparedness and development leading to business impacts, right? So I can say say that the place where I work is ready to actually take the big leap and to be the company of tomorrow. And when you're talking about the readiness,
Okay.
of course, I actually feel that it depends on the company, that management perspective there, and then it actually cascades, but at times what happens, there are a lot of companies those who prioritize, of course, business profits, growth, and creating customer value. They should not forget that one of the basis of reaching to that is also preparing your workforce so that they can create that value for the customers. And I see at times that learning and development orientation is very low in organizations, wherein it is only perceived that it is a good to have function. So that's what my thought is based on what you asked. That it depends on the L&D professionals, what we also show to business, right? So it is not only about what the leaders are telling you, but it is also equally important for any L&D professional today to show the way and try to connect the dots and create that value for the business and show that to the leaders, and then only you will see that we are being valued more.
Yeah, very true, very true. You said a curtain raiser, but I'm saying this is a foundation for my further discussion, Kaushik. Insightful thought to drive business growth, being prepared, and connecting the dots, showing that value, and being proactive from the business context. Definitely, we need to stay abreast and consult. In that thought process, Kaushik, L&D is definitely a backbone, and we need to be that influencer for the overall growth of the organization. So what are the must-have competency then for L&D professionals to be ready in this VUCA world?
Well, I really like the term, Jyoti, that you used as L&D being a backbone. I hope and I really would be delighted if Companies start talking about sales is my bloodstream and the backbone, or maybe my marketing department is creating that value. I've not come across companies talking much. Even I've not read many books which talks about that LND being a backbone. But I really like that thought of yours. But
Thank
we
you.
can be the backbone.
I believe that way and I want to function in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we always say that your belief should be demonstrated by your behavior, and whatever you show as a behavior that defines your business, right? So
True.
we can be the backbone as L&D function if we can prove our
Mm,
metal and justify our contributions time and again. See what happens in
mm,
sales, customer service, you talk about any other quality or operational excellence. uh,
yeah.
every function or aspect of business needs to prove continuously that how it exactly creating value for the customers and contributing significant to the growth story. And for
Okay.
learning, we talk about it is a glorified term. We must learn. There's no other way out. Humans, from the primordial age, we have always learned, and we have been learning to get better, right? But learning is not a
Right.
feel good factor. If we only feel today in organizational context that it is a feel good factor, just to motivate people, just to drive someone's career growth, people need to learn. The terminologies will not actually result into L&D becoming a backbone. So today, when you
Mm,
talk about sales, you say that it is a bloodstream of the organization, because if you don't sell something, or if your sales system is not strong, you don't have the professionals there, then your organization
mm,
will not grow. But the question here is also that how what will ensure that the sales people are having the right capabilities to create customer value. So you can say that there's an underlying
right.
fact
Yeah.
L&D can play a pivotal role there. So ideally it should be a company's DNA. So learning, when you're talking about, if we are in a position to create that kind of aura that learning is my company's value and DNA, then you
Mm,
see a kind of L&D being perceived as a backbone, because it becomes a part of your culture, part of your value system. And that's how learning I
mm,
look at it. Now for L&D
right.
professionals, I believe that we need to be the role models of learning with high on learning agility. In an organization, we
Mm,
always say that leaders or the CEOs, CFOs, they should be role model, or the business head should be the role model. That expectation can be set, which is right. That is the way. But the question the
yeah.
L&D professionals need to ask themselves, or the L&D leaders, can I be called as
Mm,
a role model of learning in my organization? That's point one. And they must demonstrate
right.
passion and energy to influence others in the system, because if
Mm,
you don't do it with that energy and the passion, then even your technical expertise or know-how will not help you to connect with the decision makers of the organization and make them believe that yes, learning is the backbone for my organization. And the competences
mm,
that you actually asked, now I'm coming to that: ability to
mm,
innovate, challenge the system, challenge the leaders, influence by showing your conviction, confidence, your communication, and most importantly, having a kind
mm,
of mindset of creating an ecosystem of learning, so that
mm,
everything becomes a kind of interconnected dots through which you can drive your agenda of learning and make it as a part of your DNA. So if L&D professionals can create that kind of ecosystem around by demonstrating those kind of behavior through those competencies, organizations can
mm.
survive and sustain in the long run. And then only can we think of calling ourselves as a significant contributor to the business, or maybe the backbone to any business.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, wonderfully said that, Kaushik. We need to be that role model, and I hear you say that we HR or L&D, we need to hone these skills and uh, these behaviors has to be demonstrated and be a catalyst in the system. So, what has been your approach, Kaushik, to empower business to scale?
So my approach is simple: we must practice what's meeting the business objectives and be futuristic, right?
Mm,
We exist only for business and creating value for business and achieve those visions through those missions, right? Now whatever
mm,
is the business objective, if we can cater to that need and also give them a kind of hope and an affirmation that I'm creating the workforce of tomorrow, and I'm going to create the company that you wish to be. That is how a function can really, can take. things to scale or business to scale, the way you are asking.
Hmm.
So to be the company
Hmm.
of tomorrow
Hmm.
and to business to scale, the most important factor here is, first of all, you try to work what the business wants to achieve and show them this concept of that how the business can get better in terms of growth, revenue, maybe bringing down the overall cost, bringing operational excellence, improving quality or service, and so on. Every aspect is important.
Hmm.
Our role is more about supporting an organization to write its future, if I may say so, because every
Hmm.
company works today to create a better future, and I'm talking about future not 10 years down the line. Even after 1 year can be a
Hmm.
future, right? It is future tense I'm talking about.
Yes.
So how are you
Right.
enabling an organization to write its future? That's what exactly also I feel it's extremely important from a learning and development point of
Hmm.
view. So all requisite
Hmm.
skills need to be demonstrated well by L&D folks with sustainable sincerity, and this is the word that I enjoy a lot, though it could sound like a jargon. But to me it
Hmm.
is, everything has to sustain. And when you want to sustain, you
Hmm.
have to have you need to have a sense of discipline. That is your sincerity. You can't say that I do
Hmm.
something as an act and then it is getting carried away. And that's where exactly the challenges we face in L&D. Things should sustain and there should be a
Hmm.
sincerity and
Yeah.
discipline created. So who is responsible to do
Yeah.
it? The L&D leaders only. And that's our core job for which we actually should get paid and will be getting paid in future. I ensure
Right.
that I stay updated and connected to business all the time, partner them in whatever capacity possible, and come up with initiatives to keep the workforce engaged and show the management the value on investing in people that can
Hmm.
lead to customer value and growth. If I don't do this and I don't show this kind of connectivity, that whatever I'm trying to do with my workforce, which is leading to customer value, centricity, or growth, I think nobody would
Hmm.
ever validate and try to scale up. So business to scale is
Right.
possible in this regard is only when you try to show the real value and define the real value in absolute terms.
Right, right. So definitely loads of nuggets here, which are definitely to put things into action, like, practice, meet business objectives. We need to cater, give them hope, and create that kind of an environment and achieve that result. And I really like the statement what you said about our role is to write organization future, right? So and that to sustainability and with discipline and being responsible. So in these thought process, Kaushik, what is your ideal definition for L&D professional?
I was expecting this question coming to me. Thanks for asking, Jyoti. Ideal is not an ideal word to be used to define anyone in any professional circuit, right? So
Okay.
I um, I stay away from being ideal or a definition of an ideal. But since you've asked me this question, I will try to justify something that I believe in, but it may not be an ideal. It's just a thought. So, as in a
Yes.
VUCA world, things
For
change. So,
now, for
yeah,
now
for now,
context.
correct. So, this is how I
Hmm.
look up. This is how I look at it, and this is how I would like to be. Now, what I want to
Hmm.
become, it may not be an ideal thing, right? And for L&D
Hmm.
professionals, I personally feel there's nothing called idealism here. It is largely about learning and continuous
Yes.
learning. So, things are changing so fast today. Continuous development and learning is the key. It is for anybody
Yes.
in business or as a professional. But an L&D professional should be having a good business understanding, ability to influence people around, manage stakeholders, able to design and market concepts, brand events and exercises. Then you can say design and deliver even better than the external support if required. To name a few, these are the
Hmm.
definitions, so to say, of a good professional. And I see as
Hmm.
an HR professional to be a thought leader, driving learning to create business excellence. That's what could be a definition of an ideal HR leader, who is a thought leader who can influence the stakeholders and the top leaders in the organization, and uh, whose contribution can help companies to take better decisions and create business excellence. If that answers your question of being
Hmm.
ideal.
Yes, yes, definitely. And definitely these kind of a behaviors, if you demonstrate and Definitely, we will see a shift in the role what we are doing,
Yeah.
and what we had skills and what we did good in the past will not hold good in the current context, because we are living in that kind of a change is constant, I should say. And I and you are being in the same profession, right? We agree that L&D is going through that paradigm shift. Can you give more insight on what should be our focus as an L&D professional?
So let me enumerate a few points here that will help others who are listening to this podcast to also ask themselves, are they trying to demonstrate or maybe trying to pick up those skills? So if you ask me,
Mm,
based on my experience, become consultants to business, being anticipators
mm,
to the kind of things you want to bring in. Be performance
yeah.
coaches, right? You will see
Mm,
that a lot of L&D folks would be becoming performance coaches, then life coaches, executive coaches. At times we try to outsource that as a service, but in
mm,
future I see that a lot of L&D professionals would be required to coach people at different levels. So the
mm,
understanding of coaching should be very strong for L&D leaders, because performance is the key
mm,
here, right? Why we train or develop people,
yeah.
so that they lead to performance, they achieve peak performance.
Right.
So the understanding of
Yes.
coaching
Yes.
has to be very strong in today's context. You can't simply think about
Mm,
outsourcing it. Of course, you can do it, but you can also
mm,
create internal knowledge repository while working in an organization. They need to also
mm,
understand the elements of cultural transformation and be the catalyst to it. Now, catalyst in true
mm,
sense, and I know that this is an overused word. Every now and then in HR space, we have been talking about being a catalyst. To me, if I refine this further, it's being proactive. In HR and
mm,
L&D, gone are the days when we used to react, right? The business tells me to do
yeah.
something, then I would be reacting and then make things happen. But the real value is not about being reactive. So to me, Catalyst is all about being proactive. Even if the business is not
Mm,
telling me to do, can I go back to business, educate them, show my thought leadership, and then do things or take things, in the way it should be done, and turn around things. That's how I look at it. They need to be
mm,
extremely strong in communication and branding. Why do
okay.
people buy products? Do they buy products only for the features, or also for an emotional connect? To me, any
Mm,
product that you buy or service that you buy, it has got product benefits and emotional connect. So no matter how
right.
brilliant program that you create, right? You
Mm,
say that
mm,
amazing content from the best of the B schools or maybe the institutions in the world, if it is not properly
mm,
branded, that
right.
means it is not properly communicated, it will not get a kind
Mm,
of space on the minds of people. So L&D people need to be extremely smart marketeers now,
mm, mm,
digitally well oriented to use technology to create a culture of digital learning. Now we talk about AI, cloud computing, then you talk about AR, VR, robotics. The question is,
mm,
as L&D professional, do I have an understanding of the definition, or how these can be implemented also in my space? And have I done something about that? Even if my organization has not executed any of this technology, technology is not to be
mm,
used for the heck of it. It is to create business value. And technology is always a tailwind, right? But the
mm,
understanding, if you don't know what is the technology I'm talking about, where can I find, how can it be better for my business, if those understanding I can't have, or I don't actually create for myself or develop for myself, then I am not digitally well connected. And in this digital world, if the business models are getting into much more of a digitalized way of doing to create new business models and all, if my understanding of being digitally is restricted or limited, and and
mm,
there's an over dependence on others, I cannot show my thought leadership. So there has to be some structure and significant understanding of, or on technology, and the way technology can be used to train, educate, coach people so that they can create business impact. That has to be there. Bring business
mm,
functions together so that they can collaborate and co-create in an agile environment. Now today it's not about how big you are, we talk about how fast you are. right? If
Yeah.
you want to be
Right.
a fast paced organization, even bigger organizations are getting into a kind of entrepreneurial mode. They work in a kind of ecosystem wherein they want to again go back to a startup mindset. Now, how would you create when you are a kind of, maybe a $50 billion company, or maybe a 70 billion or $100 billion company? The question is very simple. When you grow bigger, again, at times you have to go back to the previous state wherein you feel that I have to start from zero. So I need to create an entrepreneurial mindset. And for that matter, L&D should play a
Mm,
pivotal role again to create that kind of ecosystem, so that the way people collaborate, co-create, and really work on the agile methodologies around, that is also a
mm,
job. That how do you bring functions and cross-functional teams together? So
right.
that's one of the competencies. And finally, how can I make learning personalized, enjoyable, and most importantly today, it is not only about being personalized or enjoyable. Learning should also be made aspirational. And if I'm
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
make it aspirational for people, this means what? You need to have awareness creation, branding, communication, then create interest, desire. So the ida model of marketing stands very valid for L&D professionals as well. If learning does
Mm,
not become aspirational in your organization, I think it will not kick off well. So these are the areas what I was talking about: consultant, coach, cultural transformation,
mm,
mass communication, digital orientation, collaboration and agile environment, and most importantly, making learning personalized and aspirational. These are the areas where L&D people need to focus more on.
yeah, yeah. Wonderful. You've wrapped it very well. All the important elements on, what we need to be focusing, Kaushik. And I hear you loud on being coaches and, executive coach, life coach, performance coach. And the learning is grounded and are expected to be mentor and coaches to enable employees, with that desirable competencies to play or to execute in their job role. And L&D professionals, we need to have that ability also, right? To synthesize to connect between the business and the employees. So, so what would be your strategy? Do you think L&D professionals are equipped to handle this as a lifelong learning intervention?
Well, lifelong learning is about developing an organizational culture by bringing the business context to the fore. It has to come out very strong,
Hmm.
right? We say that
Hmm.
in L&D, content is the king, but context is the kingdom, right? So we all
Hmm.
operate
Hmm.
in a kingdom. You can't be, there's no king required if there is no kingdom. We must ensure that there is a culture built around learning in today's context for an organization to sustain. And to do that, learning should be given a lot of priority. There should be leaders as role models of learning, proper systems and processes that encourage people to learn and share, and various initiatives around learn importance of learning from failures to success as you celebrate. So if there is a
Hmm.
culture built around learning, and if it can become a part of your DNA by the leaders from the top, demonstrating that what is the importance of learning and how it can create business impact and customer value, then
Hmm.
you can create a strong culture and promote the concept of lifelong learning. There's one more thing
Hmm.
also. There's a statement always I have loved it, that a person with a learning mind never feels the pressure to perform. Rather, he or she
Hmm.
always feels of finding opportunities in every challenging situation. And that's what
Hmm.
exactly. And today we suffer in organizations. We talk about stress level. We talk about disparity. There are a lot of people who have got performance pressure. Why all these things come so strongly to HR and to business? Because the moment you start promoting the learning mind, growth mindset, you will see those things actually will not disturb anyone's performance. And who would try to demonstrate that? The culture largely is about the system, what I said. Then you have to create
Hmm.
those kind of processes. And the most
Hmm.
important part is what your top management and leadership they believe about it, and whether they demonstrate and talk that language or not. If they can develop that
Hmm.
strong language and can cascade to people across levels, that is the
Hmm.
time you see a lifelong learning culture getting established.
Yeah, yeah, true. Kaushik. Kaushik, this also connects to how much should one invest in oneself to bring this kind of a, culture, or or that kind of a mindset. So, what is your thoughts from the L&D point of view?
So, Jyoti, taking or connecting to what I just said, to me, L&D must keep on experimenting various activities within the organization and promote the importance of learning every day. Now, the focus here is the word every day. What works well is at times well accepted by people at large, and whatever, when you are trying to experiment, it could be any form of learning. It could be
Mm,
gamification, some app based, it could be reverse mentoring, or a peer learning session. Whatever initiatives you take, it can't be that one thing will lead to success. So for a lot of organizations, because of the generation that one belongs to, for a Gen Z, things are different. For a Centennial, the learning way will be different. So is the case with the Gen X. So as L&D professionals, creating a kind of learning culture, keeping in mind every possible aspect of a way a person needs to learn. There is no
mm,
sacrosanct rule that which learning is the best learning. So when you create that
mm.
and you see that what is resulting into the maximum traction and what people are enjoying, and
Right.
whatever people are enjoying, try to institutionalize that process so that the organization gains the maximum. You see that
Mm,
great companies institutionalize a few practices, and later they get
mm.
embedded as values of that company. So it is important for L&D
Right.
professionals to keep on experimenting, and that happens through some bringing some new age innovation. When you do that, you see that where exactly the tractions are, what people are liking, talk to them, reach out to them, and whatever is working well for you. It is not like whatever has worked well for a Google or an Apple or Amazon will also work the same in your organization. We can always take
Right.
those as
Right.
best practices, but that does not mean it is a kind of guaranteed act that whatever worked in some other companies will also work in my company. Hence,
Mm,
L&D professionals need to keep on experimenting and see what exactly delves well in one's organizational culture, and if that works well, institutionalize that process. And when you institutionalize, why
right.
am I putting emphasis on this word? Then it becomes a
Mm,
part of your overall value of the company.
right. Right. So Kaushik, connecting to our conversation, what we had, you mentioned that we need to drive business growth. We also need to bring that value of preparedness and being proactive in our approach for the organization. L&D, as a L&D professional, we need to continuously experiment and create that kind of a new process for whatever the kind of audience, Gen X, Y, or Central, right? And we need to be at the leading edge of innovation in the workplace, bringing all of that gamification, app based you mentioned. So, in today's context, how L&D can lead by examples.
Yeah, so that's a pretty interesting question. And what I feel is more the business challenges, higher will be the opportunities for L&D professionals to connect with business and do some quality work. So it's a good time for
Hmm,
us to be L&D professionals. I don't know about how other people perceive. They feel that jobs are going away, everything is getting automated. Whether L&D jobs would be required in an organization, or are they going to be outsourced to some consulting firms, right? Because I've heard so many things.
true.
My
Yes.
understanding is when you have challenges, then you will have problems. When you have problems, people need to solve them. And when you want to solve
Yeah.
them, you need to decide how fast you solve. And for that matter,
Yeah.
you are creating an opportunity for L&D to cater to your needs. But it is now an important aspect that how L&D can really show that value and justify its overall presence in an organization. Now, the question
Hmm,
is, we must remember our job is to partner with business and offer them solutions to create business impact, right? So in today's
hmm,
context, I see L&D to be an amazing field to explore, as there are business challenges more than ever before, what I just said. And as long as there are
Right.
challenges, there lies an opportunity to connect, communicate, innovate, and co-create solutions with business. So L&D can lead
Mm,
by example by proactively understanding and addressing the challenges. Again, I emphasized on the word called proactively to make a difference
mm,
here. And when we try to be proactive, coming out from a reactive nature and being proactive is very clear to me. Proactive means going and telling business how can they solve business problems even before they see it or even before they anticipate it, right? So when you are
mm.
able to get into that
Right.
kind of conversation, if the sales team is being always trained or consulted by those honchos or maybe the stalwarts of the from the industry to say that go to your customer and pitch that what could be their possible challenges, how the competitors are
Yeah.
doing, what might be a kind of bottleneck for them. This is how exactly
Mm,
consultative selling happens, right? It is all
right.
hypothesis you are creating, and you are actually creating a problem statement and showing them the value. Why can't we do
Right.
the same thing for L&D? So if
Mm,
we can follow the same kind of
interesting.
process, you will see that we will get into a proactive zone. Now it again depends on organizations whether they promote this culture or accept that culture. But if you
Mm,
start in a in a slow paced manner, and if business really sees
mm,
value in that,
mm,
then
mm.
there's a possibility that you
Yes.
can change your impression. And when it is the right time to change an
Yeah.
impression, when there's a crisis situation. Because in a situation, an organization will be experimenting more and welcoming more thoughts. And that's how I say that today, if there is a crisis, if there are challenges, then L&D can transform its image on the minds of people, specifically the top or management or the senior leaders.
Wonderful, wonderful, Kaushik. I know you gave a very insightful thought to the L&D professionals. The more the business challenge, the more the opportunity we have, and definitely we need to grab that. The right time when there is a crisis, right? And yes, organization expect us as a HR or a L&D to anticipate that future consequences and trends accurately, right? I agree that we also need to be a go-to person, bringing that best practices for the business and being proactive. And the calling is communicate, collaborate, and co-create. So I want to hear you out saying how do we as a L&D re-engineer the culture part in the organization, Kaushik?
So most of the companies today want to develop a culture of innovation, agility, customer centricity, and trust to define their future, right? And it is also rightly
Right.
said. I'm sure that we know this very famous statement coming from thought leaders saying, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." So culture is based on your values and how people in the system behave. So to re-engineer any culture, you need to look at what way people are changing their beliefs and their behavior. So focus on the why element is important here. Sharing the purpose of the organization first, and then the top management connecting and sharing how their behavioral development can lead to the organizational success is the key. So L&D needs to
Hmm.
continuously partner with the top leaders to drive the cultural transformation, or you may say re-engineering model through various such interventions. And I believe the golden
Hmm.
circle model by Simon Sinek works very well here.
Hmm.
That's around the
Hmm.
why, what, and how principle. Most of the companies
Hmm.
know the what and how very clear, but the why is missing piece.
Yeah.
And L&D can leverage upon the why piece so strongly by incorporating that or weaving that as a part of
Hmm.
any intervention or a kind of developmental journey. If the
Hmm.
context comes very strong, if the purpose come out very strong, and that can lead to a
Hmm.
significant trigger in the change in the belief system and the behavior of individuals.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's how exactly we believe that to re-engineer anything, you can't ask somebody
Yeah.
just to change. You change the context, and that is how adults in an organization working can are likely to change their behavior and beliefs. One way is you encourage, you motivate or inspire, and the second way is all about challenging. So that is depending on
Hmm.
an organizational culture and the way the workforce is shaping up. You may either
Hmm.
challenge or you can inspire, whichever way, either ways. It depends on the organizational culture then again.
Right, right. I'm also a big fan of Simon Sinek or Kaushik,
Yeah.
and I also bring whenever there's a request or problem statement. How do I address this? From the learning point of view, I go with why, who, who is my audience, and then I will go with what kind of a solution I can provide. But do you think at this current scenario that is L&D has geared up to be that agile? Somewhere, I feel when I have a conversation with few of the L&D professionals in my network, there is a disconnect, to work closely with business and mostly reactive. And I feel it is crucial that we understand how the business operates and the reasoning behind key practices, and asking that why is very important, and being tech savvy and also being agile, because you saying, you need to either challenge or inspire. How do we bring that in the formal or informal network?
So you use the word very rightly called disconnect. Yes, in L&D, there in organizations there are a lot of disconnects you will see with business at times, and then
Right.
L&D at times fails to prove that we are truly creating that kind of trust quotient with business, or maybe that impact. Now I tell you why. What happens? This is with my understanding. If you focus on
Yeah.
operations most of the time, how can you become strategic in real sense? This is the time to
Hmm.
upgrade our consultative skills and outsource most of the operational activities, or for that matter, automate operations as much as you can. Use technology here to manage your data, analytics, reports, etc., where a lot of energy gets consumed for L&D professionals. Even today, when you
Right.
look at an L&D job, people would ask you during interviews, do you know LMS? Do you know maybe how to create dashboards? So the focus goes into a lot of administrative part, and that's what 60-70% of L&D people perceive as. And when you go for
Yeah.
also an interview today, people would say whether you have got an expertise on those areas, right?
Hmm.
Now,
Right.
focus needs to be, are you there with business? Are you there on the customer calls? Can you learn from the leaders during the BRMs or the town halls, and then proactively design developmental journeys as required? Too much of operations can suck your complete energy and won't allow you to be strategic at all. And you will see L&D is
Yeah.
just doing operational management, doing a few programs and handling audits. So if you want
Hmm.
just to be in the operational excellence part, which is also important for L&D, you can't be then talking about the creation of future and being strategic. So that's why
Yeah.
you will see a disconnect with business, because to be with business you have to define the strategy, how exactly I can grow. Operational excellence is
Yeah.
important, but if your most of your time is being taken during the due to that, then you can't be strategic and you can't actually talk on the bigger topics. So today,
Right.
if you want to be strategic, try to automate processes, and that's how technology can help. It is not like technology is expensive. You need to do your ROI calculation and show it to your CEO or a CFO that if I want to invest in technology over a period of time, how much money do I save? What impact does it create? Are L&D
Yeah.
professionals doing that activity or exercise, instead of just going by the whims and fancies or their biases that yes, technology comes for a cost.
True.
If I'm not consulting and actually investing for the future, it is going to be much more detrimental for the overall organization.
Yeah. True. True. Yes. I hear you loud and clear on this, Kaushik. Very powerful one. Again, one of L&D primary responsibility, right, is to manage the development of people. And you did mention operational excellence, get into digitized mode, automate the whole process. And in the process, you also mentioned to do so, we need to support the business. And that's a key priority. So, being strategic, being in sales call, being in business, that could be a thought leader. So, what can you call out? What is the strategic role of L&D then?
So, of course, I just mentioned a few things while I was answering your previous question. You heard a lot of
Yeah.
words: proactive,
Yes.
consultative, be with business, understand business more, align with the business priorities, understand challenges and identify requisite skills and competency gaps, design interventions that will solve business problems, and so on. Uh, so these are being strategic is all about how are you solving problems for business, and how are you going to
Hmm.
create a better future for your people, right? That will lead to
Right.
customer value creation. And in the process of
Hmm.
creating that business impact, you design a lot of interventions that will meet the business objective. And most importantly, you have to keep in mind when you design any intervention, it will also address people development part, right? So your overall business objectives are going to be met through people development initiatives. And when you launch any people development initiatives, there will be definitely individual plan development plans, other learning engagement opportunities for people at large. So in short,
Right.
uh, being truly strategic in L&D is be with business, become a consultant, make sure that you understand the business language and the priorities well, you speak their language as well, and then you try to solve today's problem and create a better business for tomorrow. That's being truly strategic. And in these areas, whatever skills you need to develop or hone, you may say, I see that consultative approach and being anticipator to business, then digital skills, then becoming a coach, then maybe showing that what are the 3 4 activities a company can do, and how business leaders can strategically incorporate that as a part of their daily demonstration of behavior that can lead to some business impact. So these are the things I look at uh, as a kind of strategic role of L&D today. So consulting is a
Wonderful.
very, it's a word that hovers on my mind, that L&D is be all about now become a consultant. Think about a McKinsey or maybe a Bain or BCG. Why do you hire
Hmm.
them? You hire them, you
Yeah.
have internal expertise, but you still hire them because you want them to come and recommend you something, give you some solutions, right?
Right.
So
Right.
L&D needs to give solutions now that will create real time business problems and also will define the future. So that's how exactly I see being strategic in absolute sense.
Hmm. Interesting. And I also keep coaching my team to wear that entrepreneur hat so that they speak the kind of a language of business from investment to consultant, all of that element, from planning to execution. That's the kind of a role I suggest my team to play when they are working in that space.
And there's one more thing that Jyoti I wanted to add. In organizations, every year you have got a kind of planning, right? Business has got certain agenda to drive, objectives to attain. Uh,
Right.
can I attach all my interventions around those business priorities? Now it should the business
Yeah.
priorities, when I know that my interventions on my journey should cascade right out of that,
Hmm.
and it should show
Hmm.
that what I'm going to do and how I'm going to achieve that, which will have a direct impact. That is being strategic.
Yes.
Whatever you do, it
Yes.
should actually address your business priorities and show them the impact. And that's the role of
Yeah.
L&D today. When you sit with your CEO at the beginning of the financial year, you understand the priorities. Okay, these are the things I would suggest to be done. For this, I need this approval. And if this actually a drive, this is what you can anticipate as a kind of return or impact. So are we doing that?
Right.
We sit for with the CEOs to understand what is the budget you can spend this year. That's not L&D strategic role anymore. You can't ask and
Right.
go and ask that I need more budget, but rather talk about impact forecasting, and find out
Hmm.
ways through which you can show business impact. So I see that that
Hmm.
is being strategic. That's how exactly a CEO would like to spend more time and getting into a quality conversation.
Hmm. Hmm. So, Kaushik, uh, if you see the industrial revolution, right, very few have implemented large scale transformation. And what is that we as a L&D champion, uh, how should we architect the function in the tech know-how space? As you have seen the shift of learning technology industry moving entirely into an AI ML mode and into a cloud-based platform. What is your thoughts on this?
So Industry 4.0 is all about, as you know, smart data, cloud technology, and overall driving digitalization in business to create newer business opportunities. When business
Hmm.
models are changing from platform to pay-per-use model today, the way we learn, share, practice, and retain knowledge needs to also change. So Industry 4.0 has led to rapid changes in businesses across industries. Since the pace of change has increased more than ever before, our speed of learning has to also
Right.
increase. In fact, Professor late David Garvin of Harvard School of Business once said that your speed of learning has to be greater than the speed of change. Therefore, if the speed of learning
Right.
is the key to business growth, being digital is the key. So, creating a learning ecosystem that enables people to find world class content with a flick of finger, with the right set of awareness, connect and learning from peers on various social platforms, practice in a simulated environment as and when required, get real time feedback on development and progress should be considered by organizations today. And L&D
Hmm.
needs to come up with those innovative ideas and use technology to drive learning
Hmm.
across levels with high level of adaptation and engagement. This is the time that
Hmm.
L&D professionals need to learn more about what I was talking about: AR, VR, cloud, AI, robotics to drive learning in the organization and connect the dots with Industry 4.0. So, if business is all about Industry 4.0 that we are heading towards, or it is now people talking about Industry 5.0 when we join hands
Yeah.
with robots, right? So, uh,
Yes.
L&D also needs to understand if business is 4.0, my learning also has to be 4.0 or Industry 5.0, right? So
True. True.
integrating or embedding technology to drive learning excellence and addressing the needs and wants of learner is something what I think Industry 4.0 is all about. That should also revolutionize the way every individual learns. So it is a responsibility of L&D leaders to show the way to people. It is not like the other way around. If we don't show the way,
Hmm.
there is no reason that people will actually be able to understand because they've got other things to do.
Hmm.
So that's where the thought leadership comes in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You have given me loads of thoughts, Kaushik, with unlimited opportunities for L&D function to look up at this kind of a high level of adoption to the technology to
Yeah.
plug and unplug. So that's when we will be more efficient in providing that value and growth to the organization. However, you also spoke about the budget, right? While we sit and talk about only the budget, somehow I see a setback from the leaders of the L&D function. Only, yes, they go with the budget, and they also talk about the budget constraint. And and we are discussing that we need to be agile, we need to revolutionize, we need to gamify and create that learning centric strategy that aligns with the business growth. Is that really possible?
So learning has nothing to do with big budgets. That's what I truly believe in. Today, a lot of content is free, right? Companies
Yes.
that prioritize learning will always assign some budget for people's development. You and I know that very well. It's like a
Right.
company like Apple investing in its R&D. Do you think it will ever compromise?
No.
A lot of companies, invest a lot of money in the R&D space because that's what about creating the future. Even
Right.
in the pandemic, you look at the pharma companies, they are now anticipating that what if a virus comes in, that am I going to invest significantly in the R&D that will lead to a lot of profitability,
Mm.
correct? So it's again being the
Yeah.
preparedness. R&D is equal to being prepared for tomorrow. So is learning. Now when you don't compromise
Mm.
on the R&D, why to compromise on learning? But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is content is free, you need to find it. But I know training and
Mm.
development is seen as a cost more than an investment in many organizations because of the
Mm.
language that we choose to use, and that's very
Yeah.
unfortunate. And L&D leaders must show the learning impacts and what I was telling you, forecast returns at the beginning
Mm.
of the year with business leaders to get their budgets in place. In case budget is a
Right.
constraint, there are multiple ways learning can still be driven. I don't believe you can't drive a learning culture due to lack of adequate budget. There's a whole lot of free content that we can always use. If there's no budget to outsource or to take external support, L&D professionals need to learn working in a self-sustainable model. If
Hmm.
we learn to develop that. So I see that if I ask this question to myself always, and I would always do, if
Hmm.
tomorrow I don't have budget, will learning stop in my organization? That is the question. And second, can I also match the standards of people I would have actually preferred to invite to deliver a session? That's an
Hmm.
investment in myself. So if these two questions an L&D professional is asking to himself or herself, you are really creating
Yeah.
a value for yourself in the organization.
True. True. Definitely. Can't agree more. So, with this note, Kaushik, what do you see as the biggest challenge for learning officers, especially looking towards 2021 and beyond?
Engaging people across age group over digital platforms, digital learning adoption and completion, high expectations from business to show them the return on every penny spent, of course the cost pressures. These are the few I see as
Hmm.
challenges in 2020-21.
Kaushik, so is there anything else you would like to add that will be of value to my listeners?
So as HR and L&D leaders, we must ask ourselves one question or quite a few questions, I would say, in our reviews all the time. Why do
Hmm.
we exist? And how are we
Hmm.
adding value to business in real sense? How we
Hmm.
can, or how can we support businesses in taking better decisions? And what can I do better to create value for my customers? If these three four questions we ask ourselves every time, a lot of solutions will come out of it. But we should not stop asking ourselves questions. Why do we exist? And how can I support business better to create customer value? So these questions should be always practiced as a self reflective exercise.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
my only
Very
suggestion.
powerful one. So, ladies and gentlemen, all the links and resources which we have discussed in this episode will be made available in my show notes page of my podcast, Stars of Learning, and also on my website, prajvitaknowledge.com. That is PRAJVITA knowledge.com. I will list out all our conversations in my podcast description for your quick reference. Thank you so much, Kaushik, for being on this show. I really enjoyed all the nuggets, and you have put a lot of thoughts into my head on how to get this going and specific from the L&D point of view. How to create that impact to the business, drive the business growth, being prepared, and being the ideal, continuous development you spoke about, and having that language of business, being that influencer on the being a stakeholder in the whole conversation. And we need to meet business objective. You said it should be a part of our DNA, having that kind of a mindset. You also mentioned passion and energy to influence, and we need to be a role model and be on high on agility. uh, it's not about making it big, it's about how fast, and having that entrepreneur mindset, being digitally connected, using technology, loads and loads. And I think at least 4 pages have been filled with all the action items which I'm looking at. The three C's were very inspiring: communicate, collaborate, and co create. And when is the right time, when people have this kind of a thought, when there is a crisis, and bringing all that kind of a problem into a solution approach. Content is king, but context is kingdom, and we need to bring that kind of a culture. Golden circle is something phenomenal, and why and how and self reflection is what you mentioned. I really like the book you brought in, Thought Leader. Thank you so much, Kaushik. I really enjoyed the whole conversation, and I have learned a lot. And I'm sure, the future depends on what we do today, and we have a stake in the business as a L&D professional to transform the skills and capability of the talent. And before that, we need to get ready to be agile, and be ready for the business to collaborate and co-create and bring that kind of aspiration. I'm sure my will definitely enjoy it.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thanks for having me once again. It was a pleasure.
So, friends, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And if you have got any learning or motivated hearing to this show, then make sure you share this podcast with your friends and post it on all social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Insta. And do tag us and let your friends know about this amazing information you have learned, and let this piece of information help many others to engage, enlighten, and empower. Thank you so much for your patience and tuning into this show. Bye for now. Take good care of yourself and go out and do something engaging, enlightening,